Okay then. Now we go hunt the hunter.
Kraven the Hunter had a shot to be something special, but
Indestructible. Like a rhino.
the potential was there. A Marvel anti-hero, a raw origin story, a star who's done it before in Kick-Ass, Bullet Train, and Tenet, and an R rating to really let loose. But it really sucks. So here's the question. How many chances does Aaron Taylor Johnson get as a leading man? Halfway through, it feels like someone just said, wait, what if we just made a completely different movie? And then they just did that.
We're being hunted.
So what does work? What was just weird? And why does it feel like this whole thing got lost in a flashback? But first, hit that like and subscribe button or Rhino's gonna show up at your house looking like a rejected Zootopia character. And trust me, you don't wanna wake up to that. Okay, let's get to it. Overall, it feels like they messed this one up just like the Venom trilogy.
You are a loser, Eddie.
I hate to say this, but Sony has now built a history of not really respecting Marvel characters like Disney does.
I've even developed a form of echolocation.
I mean, that's not to say that they don't keep the Spider-Man movies up to Disney standards so that they can stay in the MCU. I mean, the profits from one Spider-Man movie could probably pay for all the Venoms, Madam Web, Morbius, and of course, the whole reason we're here, Kraven the Hunter.
Okay, Spider-Man, don't flip! Yeah!
Overall, this movie tanked in theaters, grossing about $62 million on a $110 million budget. And normally a movie needs to make back at least double to cover the marketing costs. So this movie tanked hard, and I mean so hard that someone might have gotten fired.
I will be adding these names to my list.
But it's holding strong on Netflix's top 10 movies list, and it seems like it may have one of the longest stretches of 2025 so far, leading me to think that that might be where it belonged all along. But hey, I'm just a producer and a consumer, so what do I know? But okay, in case you're new here, this is how it works. First, we break down the characters so we understand who and why things happen, and the second thing, the plot. Then we review, and let me tell you, the review on this one is fun, so stay tuned. Okay, let's get started with Sergei Kravenov, or Kraven, played by Aaron Taylor Johnson. Kraven should have been a cool, complex anti-hero in Sony's never-ending quest to control the anti-hero market. Part beast, part broken man, but instead,
I hunt people.
he's stuck in a National Geographic, Trauma Edition. His origin boils down to this. Mauled by a lion as a kid, he kind of uses this attack as a reason to abandon his family and then get superpowers because lion's blood dripped into his wound. Plus the African magic. Can't forget the African magic. I'm sorry, my bad.
What's your superpower? Cultural appropriation?
Yep, lion blood and a little bit of grandma magic, and boom, super serum via safari accident. Once he grows up, Sergei becomes a wilderness vigilante with unclear powers. It's like animal sense. He can kind of talk to the animals, and then he can run really fast and jump really high, and he's strong. And it also seems like it zapped his personality down to incel level. Aaron Taylor Johnson honestly gives it his all, but the script turns him into a walking GNC ad, flexing, brooding, and tossing out animal metaphors like he's auditioning for like a jungle Shakespearean play.
You don't hunt me!
Ah, cool, man. You should probably go to therapy. Also, how many chances are we gonna give this guy to kind of ruin a movie? He's great as a character actor in a lot of movies, but just maybe not as the main character. There's nothing wrong with being a great character actor. Ask Brian Cox.
Why the are you wasting my 2 precious hours with your movie?
Bullet Train and The Fall Guy, he gives great performances, but he's not the main character. And in Kraven, there's no real arc for him to work with, which isn't his fault. It's JC Shandor. He doesn't grow, he doesn't change, he just goes from being an angry teen to an angry adult with superpowers. And by the time he finally faces off with the Rhino, we've really just stopped caring. At the end of this, Kraven isn't a character, he's a muscle-bound outline of what a superhero or an anti-hero is supposed to be in a movie, and he deserves much better than this. That's all I have to say about it. The Rhino, played by Alessandro Nivola. The Rhino should have been the final boss, a brute force of nature, but instead he's a slow burn that kind of goes nowhere. The movie keeps teasing him like he's some kind of unstoppable monster, building him up with eerie tension and quiet malice. And Nivola's performance?
I want you to be my partner.
He sells it early on. There's a real creep factor to him. The only thing I remember from this actor is that he's in Jurassic Park 3, and that's cool. But when he finally mutates, it is awful. The design looks like a top-heavy McDonald's toy. Half CGI, half rubber suit, zero threat. I mean, just go for the knees. He shows up in the final fight for like 5 minutes, throws like 2 punches, and then gets stabbed in his MacGuffin, and he's instantly forgettable.
They never quite knew what was wrong.
I honestly couldn't tell you what he looked like if I closed my eyes. I think my brain blocked it out and stored more important things. It's the worst kind of payoff. All tease, no terror. Rhino could have been something primal, a mirror of Kraven's own rage. But instead, he's like a mascot in a bad suit who barely shows up before it's over. And after all the buildup, you're just kind of left wondering, like, what did I even wait for?
I have to see who they're dealing with.
Nikolai Kravenov, played by Russell Crowe. The original monster, I guess, but Crowe is in his half-ass era. Nikolai's idea of parenting is throwing his kids into a lion pit and seeing if they survive. Literally.
Men like me. But you still take my money, don't you, Bahari?
His whole philosophy is kill or be killed, but that doesn't mean that he's not a loving parent. It just means that he comes off as more of a motivational speaker for psychopaths and Russian gangsters. They let Russell Crowe try to go full Von villain here. Tailored suits, cold glare, monologues about strength.
No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
He nails the menace, no question, but the writing keeps him stuck in one gear, cruel, detached, and cartoonishly evil from the start. There's no depth, there's no real regret, there's no surprise. He's just a rich gangster psychopath with a hunting lodge and a god complex.
This is not about money. This is about power.
You do get to see why Sergei ends up so broken, but it would have hit harder if Nikolai had any layers to him at all. Instead, he's just the world's worst father, and somehow that's all this movie needs him to be, which is sad. Big presence, even bigger voice, but he's a one-note character.
I just came for one toast. To honor Dmitri. On his big day.
Dmitri Kravenov, aka the Chameleon, played by Fred Heschinger. The younger Kravenikov brother starts off like a nervous little intern. Awkward, quiet, seemingly out of his depth like a little beta brother.
This next one's for you, Papa.
You think he's there to humanize Kraven, maybe offer some kind of brotherly redemption. Nope, if anything, he's just there to remind us that Kraven is a bit insane. And out of nowhere, at the end, he goes full evil mastermind. The shift happens so fast that you feel like you must have skipped something. You're like, did I miss something when I went to the bathroom? 1 minute, he's kind of stammering through conversation.
Look at what they have done to my club.
The next minute, he's monologuing like he's been the main villain the entire time.
You should see the look on your face.
It's kind of crazy that he can change his face to anything, but he can't be any taller than that though, huh? There's no build-up, no internal conflict, just surprise, I'm bad now. I will say that it does feel like they tried to put tiny little moments where it seems like he could become this in the movie, but they failed to really hit the way that they had planned. His downfall into evil is less of a character arc and more of a plot twist stapled to the third act.
You put my ass in that fire. You're a man just like our father.
No, I'm nothing like him.
Calypso, played by Ariana DeBose. Calypso gave Kraven this elixir her grandmother gave her. That plus the lion's blood gave him his powers.
It was my grandmother's. We were on safari visiting her that day.
She's got style, screen presence, and Ariana DeBose brings the intensity, but the script doesn't let her do anything.
You're the boy.
She doesn't really have a purpose for being there except to give bad information and again remind us that Kraven is the weird Rambo one.
The rhino's on the move. We should know more very soon.
She could have been a force of nature, a chaotic neutral power, something unforgettable. Instead, she's mostly there just for the vibes. Okay, that's everyone that matters, and to be honest, one or two that don't. But now that we know who the true players are, let's break down this train wreck. The movie kicks off with two emotionally stunted trust fund teens, Sergei and Dmitri Kravenikov, attending an elite American boarding school where uniforms are crisp and the stairs are cold and the tuition seems like it's high enough to buy a small country somewhere.
Kravenov and Kravenov!
Your father is coming to pick you up.
Their dad, Nikolai Kravnikov, he's not just rich, he's a Russian kingpin. He's cold, he's strategic, and not the best dad. He's the kind of guy that negotiates an arms deal during breakfast, greenlights a drug deal at lunch, and has somebody disappeared at dinner, you know? He's not really raising sons, he's engineering his successors, his legacy, and he wants them to be predators. And when their mom dies by suicide, big air quotes around suicide,
allegedly, that's ignorant.
He takes them both on a hunting trip to, you know, toughen up, because grief is weakness and weakness should be left behind. It's just a grim way that Nikolai chooses to help his kids process that trauma. Hey Dad, should I get therapy?
Don't look so weak. Be a man.
What about just grief counseling?
What's going on with you?
I think that we're forgetting that nothing says I love you like handing your teenage son a rifle and saying, aim for the lungs.
I am here, teaching my sons the joy of stalking.
So there they are, somewhere remote and ominous, naturally when a lion charges. Sergei freezes, again because he's a child, and gets absolutely bodied, mauled, tossed around, shredded like a meat piñata at a billionaire's safari party. Nikolai doesn't flinch. He shoots at the lion and then he looks down at his barely breathing son and says, with full deadbeat stoicism,
He is weak, like his mother. Leave him.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, right? And honestly, that would have been iconic. It would have been cold, it would have been brutal, it would have just been so cool.
Men who kill legend becomes legend.
A real villain origin moment. But nope, that's not what happened. Actually, it's not even close. That's what they showed us in the trailer, but in the actual movie, Nikolai panics like any father would. He's shouting Sergei's name, searching frantically, calling for his men, desperately trying to find his son. The movie wants to show you that he's not just a monster, he's a father with a heart buried somewhere under those 1,000-yard stares and war crimes on his resume. And look, that's fine. Let's layer these characters. That's how you make a good movie.
You must be Sergei's father, Mr. Kraven.
But the bait and switch is a bit much. Instead of a traumatic survive or die moment that defines Sergei's entire worldview, we get a weird accident with lion's blood and a dad who shockingly might have just lost track of his kid in a panic, which is way less cool and way less of a villain origin. And it makes the whole origin story flashback thing feel less earned, less brutal, and more like a misunderstanding from a brooding teenager on an expensive vacation. And of course, just like anyone else, this eventually leads him to leaving the family mansion and living in the Russian wilderness. Duh. From there, I guess you could say he grows up to become
Really badass.
no electricity, no phones, just nature, knives, and nightmares. Oh yeah, he hunts poachers, he rages against cruelty, he sleeps in a cool greenhouse dome lair. He's like a living ghost and he's haunted by what his father turned him into.
Oh, you're standing in him.
And now that he's a full Tarzan assassin guy, or whatever you want to call it, Sergei pays a visit to his brother Dmitri, who now owns a nightclub. And not just any nightclub, it's sleek, high-end, full of velvet and vodka, and people who definitely don't pay their fair share of taxes. And Dmitri is the most amazing lounge singer of all time. He uses this weird power that he has to mimic any voice perfectly. It's super creepy, but it's also super cool, and the movie just completely wastes it. But we can probably get into that later. I don't know if you even care. At the beginning of the movie, Kraven broke into a high-security Russian prison to scratch a Russian gangster off his list. And once inside, he hunts. No sneaking, no stealth, just raw, brutal efficiency.
Ну что, охотник, вот ты попался.
He kills the gangster with a tiger's tooth, then he tears through the guards and any inmates in his way like it's open season. It's insane, and the one moment in the movie where it fully earns the R rating. And he shows us the full scope of his powers during the escape.
Next time you break out of prison and I fly this thing.
Things escalate when Dmitri gets kidnapped, not by his father, by a rival gangster named the Rhino. Yes, that Rhino, the one that we've been hearing about the entire movie. Ooh.
I have to see who they're dealing with.
Turns out Rhino got injected with a synthetic version of the same stuff that gave Kraven the lion blood powers. Except one could actually argue that he might be even more mentally healthy about it. I mean, he's not mentally healthy, but he might be better off than Kraven.
He was developing a procedure to increase strength tenfold.
Anyways, he snatches Dimitri like it's the last item on a mob-themed Black Friday sale. This is supposed to raise the stakes and emotionally tie Kraven to the climax, and kick off the final act with a bang. But we barely care because the brotherly bond has been an undercooked chicken this whole movie, making the stakes feel forced, like the plot suddenly remembered Dimitri existed and needed to do something with him before the credits rolled. Meanwhile, Calypso is just floating around in the background.
You're the boy. No, you were.
You might think that she's about to step in and guide Kraven through some critical decision or maybe help him tap into some deeper inner power, but no, not really. She just kind of shows up, speaks in metaphors, and stares at Kraven like she's reading his aura sometimes. She doesn't really do anything, and it doesn't really seem like she needs to be in the movie. Her real job is to remind us that Kraven is the weird one.
Oh, you're a goddamn lunatic. I swear.
His Timothy McVeigh lifestyle is weird, his superpowered blood is weird, and his jungle mystique vibe is just super weird. Calypso is just there to underline that point in case somehow we forgot while we were watching him fight a snow leopard.
I've seen her around since she was a cub, but she's a lot bigger than I remember.
Okay, this is what we've waited for the entire movie. The final battle takes place in Siberia. Everything has led to this, and it is absolutely bonkers. Rhino finally fully mutates into a human tank hybrid with skin-like pavement and a horn straight out of Party City's post-apocalyptic aisle. And he charges at Kraven like he's trying to win a demolition derby on foot. Kraven dodges, Rhino misses, Kraven stabs, Rhino grunts. And just to make things more bizarre, there's a herd of water buffalo just, out for a run.
Gosh, you're really heavy.
Kraven manages to finally take him down with a combination of stabby determination and plot armor, and it doesn't feel like he really won anything. This might be a weird comparison, but it kind of feels like someone accidentally knocked over your trash cans and then didn't apologize for it. And this fight is a physical manifestation of studio burnout. It might be the worst final boss fight in Marvel movies so far, and yes, I've seen Iron Man 3. And then we can't forget the twist. Nikolai, his father, set him up the whole time.
Forget about the past. Imagine the future together.
Remember that ultra-violent prison raid at the beginning of the movie? Yeah, he leaked that footage like Kim K's mom. Because of course he did. It turns out the whole revenge tour was just part of Nikolai's plan. Taking out his rival, stirring chaos, and using Kraven as a blood-soaked distraction while he consolidates more power. It's a classic villain move, but it may be a new one for messed up dads. Kraven doesn't even look surprised because at this point, neither are we.
Exactly. But my son, my real son, Kraven.
So he just lets a bear kill his dad, completing his transformation into his father. Remember whenever Kraven's mother killed herself, air quotes? I guess it's easier in this family to not have to do things yourself. Because a movie this bad has to have two twists. Turns out that his brother Dimitri has been getting that generic version of the super serum from the same doctor that the Rhino went to.
I found a doctor in New York. A little unorthodox, I must admit.
And it also turns out that Dimitri didn't always think that his dad was the worst guy ever.
You're not better than him. You're worse.
He's a chameleon, so everywhere he goes, he just does what he has to do to fit in. And it does seem like that he had a lot of respect for his father, enough to now try to fill his shoes. The movie ends with them walking across that bridge in London, and it turns out that the chameleon can change his face, but he can't change his size. So he's always just a guy with a different face, but he's still only like 5'2". That's cool, but it's also like when he puts Kraven's face on his body, like the neck doesn't fit. But, whatever, this gray face thing actually looked kind of cool. All right, that's the whole thing. Let's review this bad boy. Okay, we're here. Let's review this poor excuse for a film. This movie is a total mess. It spends so long in flashback mode that it forgets to actually start the, movie. The pacing is glacial, the fights are weak, and the payoff is truly non-existent. The character arcs are either half-baked or just randomly thrown into the third act. The Rhino is a total joke, and the accent thing is absurd. Kraven is Russian, lives in England, and went to school in America, so somehow he has an American accent, but Aaron Taylor Johnson is British, so he could have just had a British accent, and it also seems like Aaron Taylor Johnson acts better whenever he doesn't have to put on an American accent, but hey, who am I? Just a producer and a consumer, you know what I mean? They just made our main character just not very interesting. There was a real chance here to do something bold, something violent and raw and tragic, even using the twist that they came up with. Instead, it's just more studio noise, like a made-for-TV movie that they snuck into theaters. And the origin story tries to be gritty, but it ends up just being boring and kind of watching a bratty kid be a brat. Overall, Kraven the Hunter isn't really a story. It's a montage of flashbacks, animal metaphors, and half-hearted punchlines trying to... Overall, Kraven the Hunter isn't really a story. It's a montage of flashbacks, animal metaphors, and half-hearted punchlines. Overall, Kraven the Hunter isn't really a story at all. It's a montage of flashbacks, animal metaphors, and half-hearted punchlines that try to convince you that they're saying something deep, but they're really, really not. It's the cinematic equivalent to wearing camo to church and wondering why no one is impressed. But if you made it this far, congratulations, you survived the Rhino fight. So, like and subscribe so that we can all pretend that this didn't happen together. Hey, thanks for watching. Click here for more videos and subscribe to keep up with all the Blake's World updates. I'd appreciate it. All right, I'll see you next time.